Brembo brakes, Marzocchi suspension, Bosch electronics, Kawasaki engine, Tubeless Akront spoked wheels, Pirelli tires, 7-inch TFT display with Bluetooth connectivity, luggage rack, LED lighting, Italian design, 3-year unlimited mileage warranty, $7,000. This is the MotoMorini X-Cape 650. The MotoMorini X-Cape 650 is one of the newest entries into the mid-range adventure bike space. MotoMorini is a company that has existed since 1937. It is an Italian company. Their administration and design all take place in Italy, but they're owned by a Chinese parent company who manufactures these bikes in China. Thank you to MotoMorini for loaning me this bike for the last few weeks, and to Sabatino Moto in Portland for giving me a convenient place to pick it up. I've had the opportunity to ride this thing, go camping on it, and today, let's talk about how I feel about it and who I think this bike is for. But first, stats. Just in case you're not familiar with the bike, let me give you the quick rundown on what all it's got going on. It's a 649cc fuel-injected parallel twin, which is a licensed copy of the venerable Kawasaki Versys 650 engine. It has 60 horsepower, 42.5 foot-pounds of torque, dual caliber Brembo brakes in the front and a single Brembo brake in the rear. It has switchable ABS, which turns off front and rear, 6.9 inches of front suspension travel, 6.5 inches of rear suspension travel, 7.5 inches of ground clearance. For reference, that's about an inch less travel and ground clearance than my Transalp 750. It has 19-inch front tubeless spoked wheels with Pirelli Scorpion Rally STR tires, and a 17-inch rear, also tubeless, also Pirelli Scorpion STRs. It has TPMS standard, a 32.26-inch seat height. It weighs 514 pounds, fully fueled. It has a 7-inch color TFT display with Bluetooth connectivity, which enables you to control your music and phone with the handlebar controls. You also can get navigation on the TFT screen. It has an LED headlight, taillight, and blinkers, dual USB charger standard, a fully adjustable front suspension. The rear suspension is preload and compression adjustable. It has an adjustable windscreen, 6-position adjustable handlebars, and adjustable levers. I've said adjustable 14 times in a row. Now it sounds weird. It comes in 3 colors, Italian red, anthracite smoke, and Carrara white. Also, why is everyone saying anthracite instead of gray these days? Kind of weird. The MSRP is $79.99, but right now they're running a promo where you can choose between $1,000 off the bike or a 3-piece set of hard luggage, which is what I had in the camping video. That's a $1,500 value. You can either get $1,000 off or get that luggage for free. So that makes the MSRP of the bike itself $7,000 US. The bike I tested has a few optional accessories. It has the factory handguards. It has the factory, they call them drop bars, and the factory skid plate. They don't come standard on the bike. So for demonstration purposes, to kind of lead us into my overall thoughts on this bike, I think it's worthwhile to spend a little time comparing it to a bike that I think people who are shopping for this bike will also be looking at. That's the Honda CB500X, which I had, as you know, reviewed, a 1,000-mile review. I had one last year. The 500X has 1 inch less suspension travel. It has non-adjustable suspension. It comes with street tires. The Xcape has a 1/2 inch slower seat height. The 500 is 80 pounds lighter though. That's an important distinction. 500X has no TFT, no adjustable windscreen, no TPMS. The warranty is only 1 year. It has a 1/2 inch less ground clearance, 13 less horsepower, and it's $300 more. The other thing about the Xcape when compared to the 500X is it's just a more premium feeling bike. It's not a Ducati, it doesn't feel like a Ducati, but it just have all these really nice quality of life features, and it just feels like a fancier, I mean, just look at the design cues. Like it's an Italian designed, Italian inspired style bike, and it just feels more premium than that 500X. Yes, the 500X is a Honda. Yes, it has the Honda reliability, but as far as a comparison to a similarly priced bike, this bike has a ton more features than that 500X. My point is the value is off the charts with this bike. With all the extra features and the 3-year warranty, it's hard to argue that you're not getting a lot for your money. So, I always like to do pros and cons with my reviews, so let's start with pros. What do I like about this bike? Well, it is very easy to ride, an incredibly manageable throttle response. It's impossible to spin the tires even on purpose unless you're just on really, really loose mud stuff. Like even on the gravel, I was having a hard time getting the rear tire to spin. It's a very manageable machine with a very manageable power delivery. It just cruises on the highway. This thing eats up the miles like nobody's business. The seat height is reasonable if you're, an average height person. The windscreen's adjustable, and as I've said and will continue to say, this bike is just loaded with features you don't see at this price point. I've covered most of them, but I want to point out the suspension specifically. Fully adjustable front suspension and almost fully adjustable rear suspension is not something you typically see on bikes that are less than $10,000, and even then it's hit or miss. My Transalp doesn't have that, and that's a $10,000 bike. It looks good. It's a unique looking bike. It has a beautiful design in my opinion, but I feel like it's love it or hate it. It's got these very sharp lines. I like the red. I'm a big fan of red. It definitely looks like an Italian motorcycle, top to bottom. It has really good build quality and fit and finish, and it does not have that Chinese jankiness that you sometimes get, that you expect, that people are always complaining about. I've thrown my leg over a few Chinese bikes in my day and been like, but this bike, you don't get that feeling. If you didn't tell me that it wasn't a Japanese bike, I don't know that I would have been able to just tell from sitting on it, from the fit and finish and the looks of the bike. It has tubeless tires, which some people really love. There's probably two complaints I hear the most about the Transalp in those videos, and it's lack of cruise control and lack of tubeless tires. I don't care about tubeless tires that much. It's nice, but it's not a deal breaker for me. But if it is for you, this thing has tubeless tires from the factory. I also really like those side cases. I'm not a hard luggage guy, you guys know that, but they're very nice quality. They're clearly a rebranded GV case or something like that. It's not some off-brand Wish.com version. Duckfan has GV cases, and we had them side by side when we went camping together, and you couldn't tell the difference. Fit and finish was exactly the same. They're very nice. They're solid mounting. They're sturdy. They're like lined with felt. Like, they're very nice cases. So if you're trying to decide between the two, the cases are nice and worth considering if you think you'll get some use out of them. So the two biggest pros, in my opinion, about this bike: one, the price. Ridiculously low. $7,000 for this package out the door is an insane value. And two, 3-year unlimited mileage warranty. So if you have a long commute, or you just want to put thousands of miles on a bike every summer and not have to worry about it, 3 years, unlimited mileage, that doesn't exist. They call it the best warranty in motorcycling, and I've never heard of anything like it. So that's a big feather in their cap. The purpose of that is to address what is obviously the biggest question mark about this bike, which we'll get to in the cons. But I also will say that they wouldn't offer it if they thought they were gonna have to honor it all the time, if they were gonna lose money fixing bikes that were breaking down all the time. So it's a real testament to their belief in the quality and longevity of these bikes as well, that they're willing to offer 3 years unlimited mileage warranty. It's a big deal. But it's not perfect. No bike is, and for this price point, you're gonna have to deal with some inconveniences. So what do I not like about it? Well, the biggest con, the first thing you notice when you get on it, in my opinion, is that it's heavy. This bike is 80 pounds heavier than it should be. It's 80 pounds heavier than a CB500X. It's much, much heavier than my Transalp, heavier than the Tenere, heavier than every other 650 in the category in the adventure class. Now, if you start looking at street bikes, it's not that much heavier than those, which again, I think belies the intent and the design philosophy behind it. Reliability is always a big question mark with a new model, Chinese manufacturing, with a sort of lesser known brand. The warranty is super nice, but it doesn't help you when you're stuck on the side of the road or stranded in the woods. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I've had no problems with this bike. I haven't heard about significant problems with this bike, but reliability question marks abound just because it's not established. We don't have a lot of track history. These Scorpion tires are great on the road, but not good for anything more than gravel when you leave the pavement. The 19-inch front, 17-inch rear is not a great combo for off-road, and you're dealing with a more limited tire selection when compared to a 2118 setup, which most quote-unquote off-road bikes have. This engine is not fast. Some say it lacks character. I say that if you keep it between 7 and 9 grand, it's still fun to ride, but it's not a spicy engine. It's not a speedy engine. This bike is more transportation than entertainment, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you're looking for, but just know going in that you are not going to have your socks knocked off while you're riding this thing by the speed, power, and performance. The OEM upper crash bars are not good. They're not good. They're clamp mounted here, and it didn't matter how much I tightened them. They still move, so if you drop it, that's going right into your fairing. OEM handguards are just wind deflectors, so the first time you drop this bike, these are gonna break. They're not protecting your levers. I would go aftermarket here. OEM lowers are a lot better. They're more solid. As far as I can tell, they mount directly to the frame though in more places, so that's worthwhile to keep your engine protected. And overall, the biggest con is this is not an off-road bike. It's a road bike or a street bike that you could take off-road, that can handle some off-road, but it's not a purpose-built off-road machine. And you need to understand that going in. This is a touring bike. It says adventuring right here, okay? Emphasis on the touring. This is a bike for eating up a lot of miles and covering a lot of distance, not for tackling the toughest single-track trails on the planet. Also, another super annoying thing is it has modes, but they're mostly cosmetic. The whole purpose of the off-road mode seems to be that it allows you to turn off the ABS, but why not then just have ABS off in off-road mode? Why do I have to switch it to off-road mode and then switch the ABS off? And conversely, why even have an off-road mode? Why not just let me switch the ABS off in road mode or standard ride mode? Because it's not something you can do accidentally. You have to be stopped and hold the button down and all that. So it's kind of for show, kind of cosmetic, kind of pointless. I don't know if that's something they're going to change later on, but as far as I've been told, those ride modes do nothing to alter the characteristics of the motorcycle. Doesn't alter the throttle response, nothing. Okay, before we get to the final conclusion, let's talk about some questions I've gotten a bunch of times about this bike. First one is dealer support. What's the dealer support like? Well, I can tell you they're aggressively pursuing new dealerships, but it is limited depending on where you live. When we first started talking about me getting this bike, I was going to have to go to Seattle or Reno to get one. But because they're constantly aggressively adding dealers, they added Sabatino Moto in Portland while we were talking about it over the course of a few weeks, and I was able to pick this bike up there. It was a great experience. What about parts availability? Great question. They have a fully stocked warehouse here in the States, in California, and supposedly are just shipping out parts all the time if you need them. So you don't have to wait for them to come from China or overseas, Italy, Europe, anything like that. They're here in the US and ready to ship to you. Somebody asked, what if the company goes out of business? Well, they've been around for 90 years, so unlikely, I guess. I mean, that's the risk you run with everything, but it's not like there's some startup company that just came out of nowhere. They've been around for a while. They've been doing this thing for a while. How is the reliability? Another common question. I don't know, but you have a good warranty. That's all I can say about that. And the biggest question I got on my camping video, are you into hard cases now? No, I'm not into hard cases. I'm still a soft luggage devotee, but it seems stupid to get a bike loaded like that and not test out all the features. So I did that for you. Not because I'm converting to hard cases now. Still think soft luggage is the way to go in most cases. So my final conclusion, my verdict, my overall thoughts on this bike are this. It's not the fastest or most capable bike in the world, but it's the perfect bike for a very specific crowd. Let me give you a few examples of who I think this bike is perfect for. If you have a commute and you want to just eat up miles during the week, but you want to be able to throw cases on or bags or whatever and go out on the weekends and have a good time and explore far afield, great bike for that, as long as you're not planning on doing anything too crazy off-roady wise. If you're budget conscious and interested in riding to far off places with maybe a little gravel or dirt along the way, then on paper, it's hard to beat this package for this price. If you're a new rider over 5'11" and you want an easy to ride bike that'll take you just about anywhere on a paved or gravel road, it's a good choice. If you're shorter than 5'11", it's not rideable, it's just that heaviness and the height combined to make it a little bit more unwieldy. You're just gonna have to be more careful, but I would have no qualms about throwing the keys to a new rider who's over 5'11", knowing that they'll be able to get their feet down pretty comfortably. And I would just talk to the shorter people just to make sure they understand that it's gonna tip on them ahead of time otherwise. Also great for an experienced rider looking for an easy, smooth bike to put a bunch of miles on, or for someone that isn't sure they're quite ready to invest in a GS, but wants to give the whole long-range touring thing a try. It's not an 890 Adventure or a Tenere, it's not even an Africa Twin, but it's also half the price of those bikes and will take you to 80% of the same places. If you're looking at bikes like the CB500X, Versys X300, KTM 390 Adventure, Versys 650, or the V-Strom 650, then I'd encourage you to give this Moto Morini a look. It is maybe the best value in that class of beginner-friendly, not so hardcore adventure bikes. My second biggest concern with this bike is the weight. It's unwieldy and difficult. Again, it's more of a street bike weight than an off-road bike weight. My biggest concern, my number one concern to this day, is reliability. Again, because we just don't know. I've had no indication whatsoever. Don't hear me saying, I know these are unreliable. What I'm saying is reliability is a question mark. And on a bike that you're going to put a lot of miles on, that is a concern and something you should think about. However, it's like they knew that, and so one of the biggest selling points of this bike is directly targeted at addressing that concern, and that is a 3-year unlimited mileage warranty. A well-equipped, luxury-styled, good-looking, very capable in terms of street riding, comfortable adventure bike for $7,000 that you can ride an unlimited number of miles over 3 years is a hell of a deal. The warranty is a difference maker for me. Normally, I would say it's probably worth the extra money to get maybe a Japanese bike with less features, but because of that 3-year warranty, it's hard to say that it's not worth taking a flyer on, that it's not worth giving it a shot to get the comfort and extra features for the same price and know that if something does go wrong, which there is no guarantee that will occur, it's covered for 3 full years. I think it's worth a look. The low cost of entry plus that warranty makes this one of the best values, I think, in adventure motorcycling and touring motorcycling and adventuring, as it were. I've had a good time with it, and I think it's worth a look if you're shopping for bikes of that category. Again, a huge thank you to Moto Morini for giving me my very first press bike. I've enjoyed riding and testing it, and thank you to Sabatino Moto for making picking it up super easy, and I'm looking forward to visiting again when I come drop it off in the next couple days. If you have questions about the Moto Morini, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll answer some of them if I can, but also the Moto Morini guys have been popping in and out of the comments of these videos, answering those questions and addressing those concerns for you. If you're looking for more information on this bike, I would highly encourage you to check out Brett Tack's review of this very bike. I got it when he was done with it, and Jake, Spite's Corner, did a great review of this bike as well. Consider their input before you make a decision, but if you get the opportunity, go throw your leg over one. Please consider subscribing if you are looking for more dual sport and adventure bike reviews, comparisons, motorcycle camping content, motorcycle camping reviews, and all of the other silly, dorky motorcycling shenanigans that we get into on a pretty regular basis, because I'm the dork in the road and I want to be your internet riding buddy, and I'm better than your regular riding buddies because I come with a mute button. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. I pointed again. I gotta get over that. Thank you.